Part 3. The mechanism of the senses. The sensory mechanism. The vital machinery concerned with the processes of sensation consists of certain portions of the brain, certain portions of the nervous system, and the special organs of sense. The brain, one mind, in itself, may be or may not be whatever may be the ultimate nature of its relation to the brain. We must at least admit that the brain is the physical mechanism through and by means of which the mental processes are performed or manifested. Moreover, we are forced to admit that the mind must depend upon certain portions of the brain and of the nervous system for the reception and perception of the messages from the outside world which compose the raw material of knowledge which constitute the elements of the world of experience of the individual. The detailed study of the physiology of the brain is outside of the field sought to be covered by this book. Therefore, we shall confine our description of it to the technical definition, viz., the brain is the whitish mass of soft matter which is enclosed in the cartilaginous or bony cranium of vertebrate animals. It is the center of the nervous system and the seat of consciousness and volition. Here we have the general description of the physical aspect of the brain, and the statement that it is the seat of consciousness. This is sufficient for our present purpose. The sensory nerves. The nerves are bundles of fibers which transmit nervous impulses between nervous centers and various parts of the animal body. They constitute important elements of the great nervous system which traverses the body, and which has been compared to a great telegraphic system. There are motor nerves, which serve to transmit motor impulses, impulses producing motion, to the various parts of the body. There are also other classes of nerves which serve the performance of certain physiological functions, such as digestion, secretion, excretion, and circulation. With these classes of nerves, however, we are not concerned in our consideration of the general subject of the senses. Our sole concern here is with what are called the sensory nerves, that general class of nerves which transmit sensations from the various parts of the body to the central receiving office of the brain. These sensory nerves are the great telegraphic wires which report to the central office of the brain that irritation or excitation which their surface terminal ends experience by reason of their contact with the objects of the outside world. When the surface terminal ends of a sensory nerve are irritated or excited by reason of such contact with the outside object, they send to the brain a message demanding more or less attention. Whether these nerves be nerves of touch, of sight, of hearing, of taste, or of smell, the action is essentially the same at the last. All the sensory nerves are nerves of feeling. Fix this last statement in your mind. It will aid you in your comprehension of the processes manifested by the several particular sensory organs and mechanism. The sense organs. There are 5 general senses, according to the popularly accepted classification, namely, 1. Touch, 2. Sight, 3. Hearing, 4. Smell, and 5. Taste. Physiologists and psychologists often note an additional sense, called the muscular sense, which reveals the state of our muscles, and which furnishes us with our ideas of weight, spatial dimensions, etc. Others would add certain other senses, namely those connected with the feelings arising from the condition of certain internal physical organs, and which furnish us with reports manifesting the feelings of hunger, thirst, sexuality, repletion, indigestion, etc., or of burns, inflammations, bruises, cramps, etc. These latter classes, however, for convenience are usually included in the class of the sense of touch, and we shall not make the technical distinction in this book, interesting though it is for academic consideration. Each particular sense has its appropriate organ of reception, and the special sensory nerves attached to it, the latter conveying the reports from the receiving organ to the brain. Thus, the sense of touch employs the nervous centers upon the surface of the skin and in the muscles, and the nerves attached to these which lead to the brain. The sense of sight employs the eye, and its appropriate nerves. The sense of hearing employs the ear, and its nerves. The sense of smell employs the nose, and its nerves. The sense of taste employs the tongue, portions of the mouth, and their nerves. Each organ of sense is specially adapted for the reception of the irritation or excitation arising from its appropriate stimuli. No organ of sense will report the stimuli appropriate to another. Each organ of sense has its own particular kind of irritation by which it is excited. Sound does not excite the eye nor light, the ear. Each sensory organ functions only in its own special field. Each and every sensation involves, 1. An external stimulus which, coming in contact with the sensory organ, serves to irritate or excite the latter. 2. A physical organ which receives the irritation or excitation caused by contact with the external object, and transmits it to the brain by means of the connecting nerves. 3. The connecting nerves which serve to transmit the irritating, or exciting message from the sensory organ to the brain center concerned with the latter. 4. The brain center concerned with the sense organ, and which receives the message from the latter carried by the sensory nerves. And 5. The mental impression, or state of perceptive consciousness, which arises from the physical impression, and which is the representation of the latter on the mental plane. A sensation, then, is seen to consist of 1. A physical condition of change arising from contact with an external object, this condition of change involving the sensory organ, the transmitting nerves, and the brain. And 2. The mental impression or state of perceptive consciousness resulting from the physical change or condition. In short, a completed sensation is perceived to be a mental representation of an external fact by which it is produced, or a mental representation which is the internal sign of an external fact exciting it. It should be noted here that one may have a partial sensation, caused by the action of the imagination, in which there is no external object involved. Likewise, the external object may produce the physical irritation and excitement, and the resulting message to the brain, but if the attention of the mind is strongly directed elsewhere, the mental state or impression will not be produced. But in all cases of complete and full sensation, both the physical and the mental elements must be involved actively. It is generally accepted that all the various senses, with their special organs, are evolutions from the original sense and organs of feeling, the most elementary form of the latter being the sense of touch. In every sensation something external must touch the sensitive organ or nerves of the sense involved. Sight, hearing, taste, smell, all these are but refined and more complex forms and phases of touch or feeling, and their special organs are but more complex organs of touch or feeling. Touch of one kind or another, of some degree or mode, is concerned in every act of sensation. Modern science tends to verify the ancient contention of Democritus that all the senses are but modifications of touch. Moreover, modern science informs us that everything external that acts upon the organs of sense acts in the form of motion, that nothing external can act upon the senses or be taken up by them unless it present itself to them in the form of motion. Thus, light is motion resulting from undulations in the ether, sound is motion resulting from vibrations of the air, tastes and smells are the result of motion arising from the chemical changes in the particles of minute substances coming in contact with the sensitive portions of the tongue and mouth, and of the nose. Touch results from the motion of objects external to our bodies, or of portions of our body, or both. All touch implies motion. The external world is made manifest to you through your senses only by reason of the motions caused by its energies, these external motions being taken up and continued by your nervous system, and finally brought to the attention and perception of your mind. Science holds that the various nervous actions which result in various sensations must be regarded as definite series of motions. The vibrations from outside yourself accelerate and are transformed into the vibrations within your nervous system, and thus produce sensation. All that is transmitted from an organ of sense to the brain is a particular mode of motion. The particular modes of motion thus transmitted are then variously interpreted by the mind in the process of perception. All this serves once more to bring us to the realization that your world of experience is merely a representation of the outer world, such portion of that outer world which your senses are able to receive and transmit to your mind, there to be interpreted and employed as the raw materials of knowledge. You do not know the outside world directly and immediately. All that you know of it is its reports to you over the channels, and through the medium of your senses. As Helmholtz says, our sensations are for us only symbols of the objects in the external world, and correspond to them only in some such way as written characters or articulate words do to the things they denote. We ask you now to consider in further detail each of the 5 great classes of the senses. The sense of touch. The special receptive organ of the sense of touch extends practically over the entire outer surface of the body, though it manifests in greatly varying degrees according to the particular part of the body subjected to the contact with the external objects. The skin covering your body is attached to a very large number of sensory nerves which have their ending in it. When these nervy ends come in contact with an external object, they become irritated and excited, and report the degree and character of such contact to your brain, employing for the transmission the entire length of the connecting nerves. They convey to your brain a peculiar report of pressure or contact, which your mind refers to the particular part of your body in which the receiving nerve end is located. Not only this, but they report also the particular character or nature of the pressure or contact, so that your mind perceives the differences which indicate what you call hardness, softness, roughness, smoothness, etc., or what you call temperature and what you call weight, shape, form, or size, or what you call pressure. Some of these nerve ends report mere contact and degree of pressure, others merely report temperature, others report the other several material sensation producing properties of the contacted object. Some of these nerve ends are very sensitive, as, for example, the tip of the tongue, the fingertips, etc. Others lack this degree of sensitiveness, as, for instance, the nerve ends located in the back. The nerve ends of certain portions of the body respond far more readily than do others to the excitement of temperature, as, for example, the nerve ends of the cheek. This is why a woman will hold her hot iron near to her cheek in order to test its temperature. Certain nerve ends abound in heat spots on the body, while others are located in the cold spots, the region of which is particularly susceptible to impressions of cold. Other sensory nerves concerned with the sense of touch have their ends in the muscles, as well as in the skin. The reports of such nerves are the basis of that variation of the sense of touch which some psychologists call the muscular sense, in contradistinction to the other forms of touch, the latter being called the tactile sense, the true sense of touch. The muscular sense reports differences in weight, space, dimensions, pressure, movements in the contacted objects, and certain other physical conditions in the contacted object. In fact, the term muscular sensations has been applied to all those sensations originating in the tensed or relaxed muscles. The muscular sensation nerve ends are excited not so much by the contact of the external object, as by the state of tension resulting from the extension or contraction of the muscles. The sense of sight. The special receptive organ of the sense of sight consists of that delicate piece of physical mechanism known as the eye. This wonderful instrument, or piece of mechanism, consists of several parts, the actions of which are closely coordinated. The following description of the mechanism of the eye, made by Kirk, will give you a comprehensive and practical conception of it. The optical apparatus may be supposed for the sake of description to consist of several parts. First, of a series of transparent refracting surfaces and media by means of which images of external objects are brought to a focus upon the back of the eye, and secondly, of a sensitive screen, the retina, which is a specialized termination of the optic nerve, capable of being stimulated by luminous objects, and of sending through the optic nerve such an impression as to produce in the brain visual sensations. To these main parts may be added, thirdly, an apparatus for focusing objects at different angles from the eye, called eye accommodation. Even this does not complete the description of the whole organ of vision, since both eyes are usually employed in perceptive power vision, and so, fourth, an arrangement exists by means of which the eyes may be turned in the same direction by a system of muscles, so that binocular vision is possible. The eye may be compared to a photographic camera, the transparent media corresponding to the photographic lens. In such a camera, images of objects are thrown upon a ground glass screen at the back of a box, the interior of which is painted black. In the eye, the camera proper is represented by the eyeball with its colloidal pigment, the screen by the retina, and the lens by the refracting media. In the case of the camera, the screen is enabled to receive clear images of objects at different distances, by an apparatus for focusing. The corresponding apparatus in the eye is the eye accommodation. The iris, which is capable of allowing more or less light to pass into the eye, corresponds with the different sized diaphragms used in photographic apparatus. But the eye does not really see, the mind is that which actually sees. The eye is merely a miniature natural photographic lens in which the rays of light are focused upon the screen of the retina. The retina is irritated and excited by these focused rays, and by means of the optic nerve it transmits this excitement to certain areas of the brain. From these changes in the brain cells of those areas the physical phase of sensation results, the mental phase being performed by the mind, which becomes aware of these brain changes in perception, and thus sees them. Seeing, at the last, is a mental process, but the physical optical apparatus is required in order that the mind may perform it. The sense of hearing. The special receptive organ of the sense of hearing is that delicate piece of physical mechanism known as the ear. The front portion of the internal ear is a labyrinthine cavity, consisting of intricate windings manifesting accurate scientific principles and mechanical arrangement. This cavity is so constructed that it may most effectively convey to the back portion of the internal ear the sound waves reaching it from the external world. These sound waves are vibrations of the air set in motion by some physical activity or change. In the inner part of the ear, at the back of this cavity, there is located the tympanum, or eardrum, which receives the focused sound waves from the cavity, and which thereupon intensifies and adapts them according to scientific mechanical principles. These intensified and adapted sound vibrations are taken up by the ends of the auditory nerve, the excitation of the latter being then transmitted over the length of the auditory nerve to the brain. The mind then becomes consciously aware of the excitement of the auditory nerve, and thus hears the sound. The mind becomes conscious of, and perceives and interprets those qualities and properties of sound which we know as 1. Pitch, consisting of the comparative number of vibrations. 2. Intensity, or the comparative volume or quantity of the vibrations. 3. Quality, or the special character or nature of the vibrations arising from the character of the agent producing the sound. And 4. Relation, or the comparative degree of harmony or discord, music or noise, resulting from the vibrations. The range of the sense of hearing is limited in human beings to a very narrow scale. There are many sound vibrations which are either too low or too high for us to hear and know, but which are registered by special scientific instruments designed for the purpose. The sense of smell. The special receptive organ of the sense of smell is that more or less efficient piece of physical mechanism known as the nose. The nostrils, or the external openings of the nose, admit the passage of minute portions of material objects, such as gaseous matter, or very small particles of solid matter. The admitted particles, however, consisting principally of tenuous gases thrown off from solid matter or fluids. The cavity of the nostrils is lined with a thin mucous membrane, well filled with the ends of minute olfactory nerves. The minute particles of matter, coming in contact with this delicate mucous membrane, irritate and excite these olfactory nerve ends, and this excitement is transmitted by the olfactory nerves themselves to the brain. The brain excitement awakens conscious attention on the part of the mind, and the mental process of sensation occurs. Some particles of matter excite the olfactory nerves much more than do others. The difference arises from the respective chemical composition of the substances of which the particles consist. Some substances are very penetrating in their action upon these nerves, as, for instance, musk. This because of the fact that they give off a large number of molecules. Other substances possess a strong property of irritation in their action upon these nerves, as, for instance, ammonia. This because of some chemical property strongly affecting the olfactory nerves. The sense of smell is very active and efficient in the lower animals, and in primitive man. In civilized man, however, the sense is believed to have become partially atrophied from disuse resulting from lack of necessity. The sense of taste. The special receptive organ of the sense of taste is that very efficient piece of physical machinery known as the tongue. Certain portions of the mouth also serve as receptive organs of taste. The tongue contains certain tiny cells called taste buds. These are connected with the gustatory nerves, which in turn lead to the brain. When soluble material substances are taken into the mouth, the chemical action of their constituents, coming in contact with the taste buds, sets up an irritation or excitement in the nerve ends connected with them. This excitement is transmitted over the gustatory nerves to the brain, there producing an excitement of which the mind becomes conscious by attention. Taste has been classified by some as follows: 1. Bitter. 2. Sweet. 3. Sour. 4. Salty. 5. Alkaline. 6. Hot, as in the case of pepper, mustard, horseradish, etc. And 7. Acrid, i.e., bitter and hot combined. Much that we call taste really is smell, there being a close connection and relation between the physical organs and processes of these two respective senses. When your sense of smell is affected by a bad cold, catarrh, or similar condition, You will discover that your sense of taste is seemingly affected this because of the close relation above noted. Some psychologists hold that other features usually attributed to the sense of taste really are incidents of the sense of touch. Hofding, noting this fact, says, the pleasantness of many sorts of food, e.g. jelly, is certainly derived from their effect upon the delicate skin of the palate, and is therefore, much more a question of touch than of taste. The Shah of Persia, visiting in England, is said to have reproached Europeans for their use of forks, saying, "You do not know that the sense of taste begins with the fingertips." Development of the senses. That the senses may be developed, cultivated, and trained to a marvelous degree, is a fact known to all practical psychologists. We shall give you specific instances and methods when we consider the subjects of attention, perception and observation. But it must always be remembered by you that such training and development is mental and not physical. It is the mind, and not the body, which senses at the last. The sensory instruments must be there, it is true, but they serve merely as instruments, and are never by any chance the real that which experiences a sensation, or that which directs it. Training and development of the senses really is training and development of the power of consciousing by the direct action of the I am I, which is yourself. We need scarcely add that, inasmuch as the senses supply the raw material of knowledge, it follows that your world of knowledge, your world of experience, is greatly enlarged and enriched by the scientific training and development of your senses, and by their rational culture. With the proper kind and quantity of the raw materials, the finished product must be more satisfactory in quantity and in quality. This is self-evident.